Once we get a few people on board, we will address nation sovereignty and the rights exercised under that doctrine of what's called sovereignty. OT, Chief. Got to get that right signature to me, Chief. I'm going to address the concerns of sovereignty and the rights and provisions that go along with such doctrine. First of all, I want to say that sovereignty is something that's recognized between sovereign entities. Sovereignty is the proclaimed right to exercise freely self-determination, self-everything, as a superior, as one that's completely self-contained within a particular territory, region, or in the eyes of those that exist in knowing that that particular entity, sovereign, does or does not exist. It boils down to sovereignty is an act that's performed or recognized by one that is considered to be sovereign. Example, China is a sovereign nation because it established a particular dominance at some point in its existence, and because of the dominance that it developed for itself and the recognition from that dominance, it was then recognized by others that considered themselves to be dominant. A sovereign is one that's recognized by another sovereign to be a sovereign, to be one of his own self-determination. And self-proclaimed activities and rights and that sort of thing. In the case of so many groups across America, they run rampant, screaming that they are sovereign. In order for them to be sovereign, they have to be recognized by a recognized sovereign. None are not recognized by any sovereign. One cannot simply take up a document and refer to that document as himself. That's considered fraud. And if one is the heir to such property and rights, then it should stipulate that specifically in the terms of that agreement as it was made initially. That particular agreement that recognized the sovereignty between those two entities, three entities, or whatever. There are no entities inside of the United States that are considered 100% sovereign or sovereign. You have the quasi-sovereigns, which are the Native Americans, and as long as they are under the adhesions of Congress, they are not sovereign nations. They are congressional nations regulated by Congress and cannot act in a sovereign manner. They do receive certain congressional provisions that others do not. And that's the limit of their special position. In 1864, the United States, along with other sovereign governments, recognized the Maori Hapu of New Zealand as a sovereign indigenous nation, Polynesian nation, because they are a sovereign nation recognized by other sovereign nations. They are considered sovereign. The nation is sovereign, and the people are protected by that sovereign doctrine. The people are not sovereign. The nation is a sovereign nation. People are never sovereign. Only the nation. And the nation's sovereignty protects its people. The nation's recognition, the nation's right and recognized freedom by others that are free, provides that recognized nation or group the title of sovereign. because the Maori are recognized as a sovereign indigenous nation, and they in turn recognized the Maipuri, that created a position of sovereignty for the Maipuri Aruan nation, because we were recognized by another recognized sovereign nation, or a sovereign nation. The sovereignty of that recognition gives us a great deal of position and right to move forward in a lot of areas. We as Maipuri, we have the right under that sovereign protection as a sovereign entity. We have the right to self-determination, self-identification, and the self-recognition of our people. And those people include many thousands of indigenous people of the territory called Mexico. Our brothers and sisters located south of the border, as they call it, and those hinging on the border, and those in immigration camps, all in the region of the border and elsewhere across the United States. Those people are the descendants of Maipuri, just as we are. And we have a responsibility to them to speak up for their freedom, to speak up for their rights, because they're unable to do such a thing, and they're not as fortunate as we are to have gathered information of reality and truth to protect us as we are now protected. It's necessary for those people who are classified as Mexicans, Indians here in America, Aztecs, and all those tribes forced below the Mexican border by the United States government. They have the right to exist and recognition. They are the true descendants of Maipuri, as we are. You know, we don't have guns, and we don't have an army of defense mechanisms in place. But truly, we don't need those things anymore. We need unification and understanding and operation in one mind. We have to operate in one mind and get rid of the negativity and the negative energies that delay our progress in self-determination. I've been invited to Mexico by various indigenous groups of Mexico. I've been invited to meet with various governors of Mexico concerning the plight of the Mexican immigrants, concerning the rights of the indigenous people that currently still inhabit Mexico and those that have been trying to come home to what's considered to be the United States territory. Meeting with them will hopefully culminate in a compact that will allow us to embrace them and they embrace us in an effort of unification for the delivery of protections for those that are held in these immigration human trafficking camps. You know, we have to take a different stance at how we view life and people. We've been trained to hate. We've been trained to discriminate. We've been trained to presume that we were better than something else. And we as darker toned people, we seek the wrong things. And it keeps us lagging way behind. We have an opportunity right now to change the whole course of this country because we are the descendants of the natural inhabitants. So many thousands of us are the descendants of the natural inhabitants of the Americas. I didn't create these positions. I learned that they existed. I learned that we were not what they said that we were. And I think most of us have learned that we are not who they said and who they say that we are, because they began to say less and less and less about who we are. They're just hoping that we don't move to a point of anger at finding out who we are and how we were tricked into believing that we were someone else. As a sovereign indigenous nation, the Maipuri is an open gate for those who have been called African American, those who have been called Black, those who have been called Negro. A majority of them came from a classification called colored, and that colored classification came from their ancestors who were called Indians, and those Indians, in the process of disenfranchisement, in the process of disenfranchisement, those Indians became coloreds, and years later those coloreds became Negroes, and those Negroes became blacks, and those blacks became African American, and they are stranded in the grips of African Americanism. As we reach a brand new dynamic of universal awareness and awakenness. We talk about being goddesses and gods and things of that nature, and that's good. That's a development forward of awakening. But we have to realize that there's a lot in that. There's a lot in operating in the mindset of a god or a goddess. Because to operate in such a mindset, you have responsibilities. Because gods and goddesses, they have responsibilities. They have the responsibility of creation and maintaining creation. That means that we must be creative and we must be able to maintain the things that we create. And not many of us are fitting that particular classification as gods and goddesses, because we are not creating, we are debilitating ourselves and our people. We are further disenfranchising our people. We are disenfranchising the planet with our energies, because we are a most powerful energy. Understand that the United States government and existence was built on our energy. Just their direction, but our energy. There's a lot in that. We are creative energy, and we have the right to a sovereign position called the Maipuri Aruan Nation. And that nation is developing government for thousands of tribes, both in the United States territories, mainland and the Caribbean, and in the territory of Mexico and Panama and other areas in South America. I'm not a politician, and I don't claim to understand all the things that I do. I can only admit that the universe has endowed me with something that no one else has been endowed with, and that's the responsibility of delivering information that no one else has concerning our indigenous rights and our existence in the Americas and our history of existing in the Americas. The safest thing is for us to take the ego and take the intellect and move it to the side. Recognize the things that have been delivered. Recognize the things that have been completed, established, and in hand. Recognize those things that have been given to the indigenous people of North America via the treaty with a sovereign indigenous nation. If the Nation of Islam was a sovereign indigenous nation, they could have accepted funding from Gaddafi before he was killed. But because the United States did not recognize Libya as a country, Libya could not recognize Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, as sovereign people, as the attempt was being made. Now, if the United States had recognized them as a sovereign indigenous nation, then that nation of Gaddafi's could have recognized then the people under the Nation of Islam, and a nation could have been formed. But that would have meant restructuring the Nation of Islam. There are no entities, no organizations, no tribal indigenous groups whatsoever that exist under a sovereign indigenous treaty other than. Now, there may be others to follow, but at this particular time, there are no recognized sovereign indigenous groups inside of the United States territory other than the Maipuri. The Native Americans are not sovereign. They gave up their true sovereignty for provisions of Congress, U.S. Congress. So they are not sovereign. They are quasi-interdependent on the United States to give them position and rights and livelihood. Somehow we have to express this to our people, that we have reached that point. The treaty is in place. The government is being structured and put in place. And there are very good people that are putting it in place. And I'm looking forward to engaging with the people of Mexico and the people of South America in greater detail and with greater energy. They need us and we need them. But more than anything, we need the people of the Maipuri to recognize themselves and read the doctrine, read and understand what a treaty is, and understand that a treaty between two entities does not have to be recognized by any other entity for that treaty to be valid. And in the case of our treaty, it's a valid treaty, and we've not yet placed it on the record with the State Department or with the Office of Treaties in Washington, D.C. We are approaching a point where we're signing the Constitution. The Constitution will be signed by the members of Congress within the next 15 days, after which members of Congress will be proceeding to the Office of Treaties to file the treaty. And from that point, we will be proceeding to meet with the necessary federal U.S. agencies concerning the rights and positions of the people of the Maipuri. And we're not expecting any type of confusion. Hasn't been that type of party. So I hope I've given enlightening information on the position of sovereignty and our position existing within that doctrine of sovereignty. And hopefully it will persuade those who did not have an understanding initially to proceed with expanding the actions of your rights, not just letting them exist, but activating them in unity. Discuss the terms, discuss sovereignty, discuss what it means. Learn that you have the right to function via self-determination and remove the fear. Remove the fear. Good night. Thank you for listening, and I hope that those that will listen later will gain a solid understanding of sovereignty. Immune boost tea in a McDonald's cup. How about that? Yeah. Immune boost tea. Peace.